G'day. Thanks for joining me once again in my conservatory. The ambience is increased today by the addition of my neighbour and his perpetual chainsawing of logs for the upcoming winter. About June or July he starts. Pretty sure that's probably why the previous owners of the house put in double glazing. 3 months non-stop of the neighbour with the chainsaw. However, I wouldn't want him to be cold. He's a lovely man, and I'm sure my dogs bark and annoy other people too. So, love thy neighbour. And I do. The chainsaw isn't actually much of a bother at all. It's just funny. So I was thinking about signs. A couple of weeks ago, I rewatched the M. Night Shyamalan film, Signs. It has Mel Gibson, Joaquin Phoenix, Abigail Breslin, when she was a wee little girl, and Kieran Culkin when he was a young lad as well. I completely forgot Kieran Culkin's first name there for a second. I'm not going to spoil Signs by M. Night Shyamalan. For anyone who hasn't seen it, just watch it. But it does have as a subplot the concept of signs from the universe or divine intervention, however you might want to consider it. In Pulp Fiction, where he says, have you heard of divine intervention? Yes, you're saying that God came down and stopped the bullets. Divine intervention is when an angelic being or an interdimensional creature, presumably an agent of a deity, acts to prevent an awful fate occurring to we mortals on this plane, I suppose. Or just, people say, oh, it must be a sign. No such thing as a coincidence, that sort of thing, which I firmly believe in. Like whether you're a detective or a metaphysicist. Goodness, why can't I say metaphysicist? There's no such thing as coincidence, right? So I rewatched the film Signs, and I was thinking about signs from the universe, how often we take things as just a lucky omen, for example, or maybe an ill omen if you get a dodgy feeling or you see something that is a trigger that reminds you of another situation, you might choose not to go down that path again. And then it becomes a Schrodinger's cat sort of thing. It's just like, was a sign there for us, or did we notice that sign where we wouldn't have normally, only because we were looking for it? It's like the more of the universe is discovered, the bigger the telescopes, or so the stronger the telescopes we need to discover the universe. And the universe seems to be getting perpetually bigger the more powerful our telescopes, the self-perpetuating fractal of, global consciousness of agreement that we exist in the first place, I suppose. Which brings me back to signs. So I decided when I got to Ireland, the Fenian, my husband, we have an unconventional relationship, you might want to say. Asterix, footnote, see Vita Sackville West and Harold Nicholson, Portrait of a Marriage. But the Feeney and I have been in each other's lives for just over 12 years now, rough and smooth. But we both sort of have have an understanding with the universe that, you know, there's more. We're probably living in more than one dimension. Who knows? There's more under heaven and earth than is dreamed of in your philosophy, Horatio. Let's just sum it up by saying, like, both Daphne and I have experienced so many very strange and abnormal circumstances witnessed by more than one person at any given time that we are pretty broad-minded when it comes to most things, so we don't dismiss sort of the signs if we choose to take them as signs, perhaps. So when we arrived in Ireland, I decided to adopt as our motif, as a sign, you know, that we're on the right track, that everything is meant to be, you know, our own sort of, our own personal motif. So if we see this thing, we know that we're on the right track. We're meant to be here. We're still, you know, on the sliding doors of life, on the paths less taken, the roads less taken. I decided a giraffe, because a giraffe is incongruous in Ireland, right? And if you've ever seen, there's a famous poster, it's about 20 years old, I think. It's of a giraffe mummy kissing a baby giraffe at a zoo, and that was taken at Perth Zoo. And I am from Western Australia, and I love Perth Zoo. Side note, last year for Christmas, to support the Dublin Zoo, which was going broke because of the pandemic, I gave my child a giraffe from the Dublin Zoo. She adopted a giraffe from the Dublin Zoo as Christmas present. She probably would have preferred a Nintendo Switch, but she got from her father. So we're happy all around. So anyway, so giraffes, right? So adopted as motif the giraffe, and so the giraffe has been popping up since I got to Ireland with a monotonous regularity in incongruous places, just to let me know I'm on the right path sometimes. For no apparent reason, at one of the roundabouts in Castle Bar in Mayo here, there is like 3 statuettes of a mummy, a daddy and a baby giraffe. Why it would be in Mayo, I do not know, but that was before I adopted the giraffe as our, you know, that's our sign. Before we saw, for no apparent reason, 3 giraffes in a roundabout in Castle Bar, near where we live. And a couple of years ago, we went to Amsterdam, for example, and had a fabulous weekend. And while we were walking down, the street in Amsterdam, and all the shops were closed and windows were, you know, lit up with window displays, for no apparent reason, there was a giraffe, a statue of a giraffe in the front window of an Amsterdam shop window, wearing a rainbow-coloured tutu with glow sticks. So it was like, even our giraffe was like off its tits and having a whale of a time in Amsterdam, bizarrely. So the giraffe. So about a week ago, I wanted to go and see a seaside village that has an amazing beach and scenery and all sorts, up the very top of Donegal, sort of on the northwest coast of Ireland. And it is a village from whence the Fenians' ancestors sprang, for to connect or to hell or connect, but he was from Donegal originally, like several generations ago. Now, the Fenian does not like long drives. Very rarely have I encountered an Irishman who enjoys the travelling, the journey. They love to travel, but they would like it to be instant. Teleporting, I think, would be the best. Teleporting is every Irishman's dream, Just like, I'm sick of this. I'd like to go to Ibiza, but I don't want to go through the airports or sit on the plane or drive anywhere. However, since I announced I was going to go and look at this village by myself, but he was welcome to accompany me if he wanted to, he came. And it was a lovely day. The weather was absolutely glorious. We drove from Mayo all the way through, well, several counties, through Sligo, past Ben Bulben, looking amazing, blue skies. There's videos on my YouTube channel, I think, of how nice it was up there. There is me lying in heather up at the edge of the Wild Atlantic Way in Donegal. But when we got all the way up there, on the way up there, we kept seeing like our names from different sides of our Irish families just in random places, like a like the as we drove through, it was like the all these references to our families somehow in actual literal signs. I mean, you know, like McFodgene's engineering, that sort of thing, from one side of the family, just like, it was sort of like rare enough, not expected, but it was on this route, so we felt we were being guided. And when we got up to these amazing views with these sea cliffs and the bluest of blue Atlantic Ocean beneath the blue sky with purple heather, you could smell the honey and there were bees everywhere, and it was just amazing. It was very much coming to the field with me, Bridie. Feeny and I got out of the van and looking at this view. It was literally breathtaking. And down in the heather, Feeny saw this little sort of figure, sort of a little object. And he said, "Do you think that's My Little Pony?" You know, the little toys, My Little Ponies. And my kids were all mad about My Little Ponies at one point. And I said, "No, I think it's a root off a bit of driftwood or something, a bit of white bleached wood." And I said, "I'm going to go mad wandering now." I said, "I'll go down and get it." He said, "No, I'll go and get it. I've got longer legs." So he went down and got it. And as soon as he picked it up, he started pissing himself laughing. I'm like, "What?" And he kept straight back up the bank. He holds it behind his back. And he's like, "Guess what?" I'm like, "It's a giraffe." And it was. It's fucking, for no apparent reason, a very happy, bleached white in the sun toy giraffe there amongst the heather in the sea cliffs of where the Fenian's DNA sprang. So bleached white happy toy giraffe is now in the van, rides shotgun in the cup holder. But then to add to the signs, we went down to Galway a few days later because, again, the weather was just so fabulous, and it's over very quickly. It is, as I speak, it is now the 3rd of September or something, and it's already autumn chill in the air. Literally overnight went from summer to autumn. So we went down to Galway. And we're walking on Galway, and again, it was just a beautiful summery night. And Galway started to get back to normal. It's still COVID restrictions, but there's lots of alfresco areas set up now, and it's fab. But we were queuing to see if we could get into a place. And I was like, this is so like, and everyone's sort of wearing, the fashions have come around full circle again. Like when I was a teenager, I remember my mother going, "Oh my gosh, everything that you want to buy now was in fashion when I was at teachers' college in the 60s." You know, like briefly, and then it went away again. And now everything that was when I was a teenager in the 80s, like the Adidas, depending on where you're from, sneakers without socks with the matador stretchy jeans. And the midriff tops that was in 1984. That's what we had, like midriff tops for the Peaches brand, and Fabergé jeans. We call them ankle freezers. because they were like matador length, and they had zips on their ankles generally, and you wore Adidas Roams without socks, or if you did wear socks, they were like the very low trainer ones, usually with the sports bobble at the back, or they were, in 1983, they were fluorescent. Fluorescent socks were a thing in 1983, and when the fluorescent socks were a thing in 1983, my mother said, "Oh gosh, I remember my brother wearing those to teachers' college in the 60s. They didn't last very long." Because, everything goes around. But anyway, I was standing there in the queue, and everything's like sort of like 80s vibe. I'm like, this is bizarre. I said, and because there were like crowds and people said this sort of like carnival atmosphere, I said to the Fenian, I'm like, I'm finding this very Lost Boys. There's something very Lost Boys vibe about this, meaning the film, right? And then we couldn't get into that pub for a drink, and all the kitchens are shut. So we ended up at the front of the Roisin Dove having, I had gin and tonic. It was lovely. Beautiful night, like in Ireland. It was like, it could have been in like Australia. It was Irish weather, obviously, but like the Australian lifestyle of just, undercover areas with like just a roof and 4 posts, basically, is just going to have to be how Ireland's going to have to adapt, like, to COVID, I guess. So we're out front of the Roisin alfresco area having a drink, and got some chips from the chipper next door and sat there while having our last pint of the evening. And a young kid walks past, a young kid, like a young man, walks past, and he's wearing a T-shirt, and the Fenian points it out to me. He's like, "Fuck off, you're not going to believe this." And I turn around, and on the back of this kid's T-shirt, it says, "Honey Mustard, Lost Boys." The Lost Boys. I'm like, the Lost Boys. Another bloody sign, and Googled it, of course, later, what the Fenian did when he thought, or when he remembered it, he Googled it, and they are an indie band from Limerick. The Lost Boys are an indie band from Limerick. God bless them, and their debut album is called Honey Mustard. But it's like, but there you go. And then I was watching Blind Boy Boat Club's Twitch stream last night. Go and support him on Patreon. I do. I don't know Blind Boy Boat Club, but he's a fabulous chap by all accounts, and just mad talented in all regards, really. But a nice chap, most importantly, it seems. Blind Boy Boat Club last night on his Twitch stream was talking about nostalgia, and how nostalgia is rarely triggered. Sort of like nostalgia is almost redundant now, because you can't think, if, for instance, if you say, "Oh I remember back in my day, I watched Sesame Street and I loved Cookie Monster." You don't sort of have that wistful yearning for it, because you can just put turn on YouTube. In point of fact, when I was finishing my degree in 2005, I think, and my lecturer said, "Oh, there's this new thing called YouTube, which is great for if you're a filmmaker, because you can just make your own shit and put it straight up." And someone in the back of the class said, "Oh, it's great. There's like clips from old television programs, like children's television programs that you like, your favourite, you can go back and look at." Immediately when I got home that night, put my laptop on, looked up YouTube. What was the first thing I looked for? The Yip Yips, the Martians from Sesame Street, and Kermit the Frog. Kermit the Frog is probably why I became a reporter. Kermit the Frog with another fast-breaking news flash here. Go to YouTube and look up Kermit the Frog with his fast-breaking news flashes. You'll piss yourself laughing. And like the nursery rhymes and the adult humour. Sesame Street in the 70s was always layered. It was made for, well, like the Muppets. It was like, in those days, it'd be like the kids would be entertained, but there'd also be like a subtext for adults. So adults can have a quiet chuckle. But now, I think for the sort of, all the broadcasting and censorship and guidelines of things are just so impossible to keep because of the internet and because of kids' exposure to everything. It's almost like if you made a rude joke, a kid's going to get it straight away because they've been exposed to things that they probably shouldn't have been exposed to yet. I remember when I was a child, I had a very mature reading age and a very high level of reading comprehension. So I was allowed to read books that I could intellectually assimilate and understand, but upon reflection, I should have been protected from those. Because yes, I could understand it, but emotionally I was being hurt by it. So really, yeah, perhaps that's why I believe strongly in protecting children from as long as they can. There you go. Signs. So, signs indeed. Signs of giraffes. Signs of Lost Boys. Oh, Lost Boys. Lost Boys is one of my favourite films, but every time I watch it now, I can't help but feel a bit sad protecting children. No such thing as coincidence, of course. But Corey Haim was not protected as a child around the people who were making Lost Boys, it seems, even. Like, if you watch Lost Boys in the context of child sex offenders but predatory men after Lost Boys, it becomes even darker than vampires. I'll leave you with that one. So yes, but still, when all the signs are pointing the right way, on a glorious summer's day with blue sky and purple heather, and literally your names are appearing in the shop signs on the route along the Wild Atlantic Way we've never travelled before, you can't help but think that perhaps there is a bit of a shift in the universe and things might be getting back on track again. I certainly hope so, because I would like to continue to be Mama Duck, writer and comedian. So yeah, and let's hope I get a few gigs, hey? All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I have podcasts on Spotify, both by myself and with the fabulous writer and comedian Mr. Owen Colgan. And go and support Mr. Owen Colgan on Patreon too, because he's a lovely chap. What else can I tell you? Not much, really. I'll see you when you've got nothing on.